A cold fist clenched around my heart, and I knew this wasn't just another bad day. This was the universe testing me. It's always one breath before the avalanche of transformation, isn't it? And that's when we bolt, just before the miracle. Do you truly believe in destiny? Some cosmic script meticulously preordained? Carl Jung danced with a more subtle truth, that the soul, at some inscrutable depth, decides it's time for the chrysalis to crack. That's when existence itself, with an unnerving, almost surgical precision, begins its trials. Not as an act of vindictive retribution, but as a crucible, forging us in preparation. Fail to recognize this sacred alchemy, and you risk abandoning ship mere moments before the dawn. In this cinematic confessional, etched raw from my own life, I'll illuminate how the universe tests you before it births your new reality. Watch until the final frame, I beg you, and make sure you're subscribed, because this very video might be the whisper you've been desperately awaiting. Before we delve into the heart of the matter, allow me to offer a clumsy but heartfelt offering of gratitude. I've watched, humbled, as this channel has blossomed, drawing in a constellation of new souls. I devour your every comment, and knowing that these fragmented reflections, born from the wellspring of Jungian thought, resonate, impact, fills me with a joy that borders on the ecstatic. Thank you. From the marrow of my bones, thank you for being here. So, let us begin. You craved metamorphosis? You sculpted blueprints, whispered prayers of hope, dreamed in vibrant hues of a rebirth. Then, silence, stasis. The hands of time themselves seem to have seized. Nothing stirs. Breathe, my friend. Just breathe. Stay anchored, even as the storm gathers, because in this paralysis lies a pivotal moment. The universe begins its quiet assessment, not to judge your worthiness, but to gauge your fortitude, your capacity to navigate the uncharted waters of the reality you so fervently invoked. Here's the verse missing from the song: before the symphony, the hush, before the kaleidoscope of color, the inky void. And this void isn't a sentence, but the sacred space of incubation. There's a weathered tome I clutch like a lifeline. The Kybalion, a Rosetta Stone to the 7 Hermetic principles. A labyrinthine red, dense with secrets and shadows, yet indispensable. Within its pages lies the key to understanding this agonizing purgatory that precedes every breakthrough. One principle reigns supreme, the principle of rhythm. Like a cosmic heartbeat, all things pulse with a reciprocal ebb and flow, a pendulum's eternal dance. What you interpret as stagnation, as a lacerating wound, as crushing loss, is often merely the backward swing before the glorious release, the inevitable expansion. Everything exhales before it inhales. Every tide retreats before it surges. All things rise and fall, a cosmic ballet. This pendulum governs all. The fortunes of empires, the flicker of a candle, the very rhythm of your breath. The arc to the right is meticulously mirrored by the arc to the left. Rhythm is compensation, a universal balancing act. This moment, raw and agonizing, might feel like a devastating setback, a soul-crushing rejection, an inescapable trap. But consider this. Might it merely be the pendulum gathering momentum, preparing to swing you towards unimaginable horizons? From the hallowed halls of Carl Jung's philosophy echoes a profound truth. The shattering of the ego is the prelude to the encounter with the self. And this encounter, this unveiling, irrevocably alters everything. For the self isn't the carefully curated persona you present to the world, the mask you wear for applause. It's the incandescent truth of who you are, shimmering beneath the shields, the anxieties, the carefully constructed facades. When the ego, that frantic architect of control, that desperate pleaser, that self-appointed guardian, begins to crumble, what rises from the ashes is something infinitely more potent, your very essence, your unadulterated being. This is the still point of the turning world. No longer buffeted by the capricious winds of external circumstance, you discover a steadfast center within, an unshakable anchor in the tempest. This intimate rendezvous with the self marks the genesis of true liberation. And this is why existence subjects you to such grueling trials beforehand. It demands to know, have you forged the internal architecture necessary to inhabit your truth? Or do you still require the gilded cage of illusion, the fragile scaffolding of control, to feel safe in this tumultuous world? When your world freezes, it is not you that is fracturing, but the brittle certainties, the flimsy justifications you've erected to maintain control. It is precisely at this juncture that the universe fixes its gaze upon you. Will you reflexively recoil, barricading yourself against the inevitable? Or will you, this time, surrender to the current, trusting in the unseen forces at play? This is the genesis of the test, and this test commences by mercilessly exposing the dissonances within, not as punishment, but as a liberation, a cleansing fire. The former iteration of you, the self that clung so desperately to the past, no longer serves your burgeoning future. But it will not relinquish its hold silently. It demands exposure, it demands confrontation. And as this realization dawns, a subtle shift occurs. You cease perceiving the silence as abandonment and begin to recognize it as the chrysalis, the liminal space between who you were and the radiant being you are destined to become. It is then that the universe stirs, not in the external world, but within the very core of your being. Sometimes the experiences that manifest seem like a cruel parody of your desires, the antithesis of your prayers. You yearn for love and encounter only detachment. You crave freedom and find yourself shackled by limitations. You long for lightness and are met with the brutal resistance of the world. What is unfolding is this. Before you can inhabit the new, you must be confronted with the echoes of the old, the patterns and reflexes that still bind you. You cannot navigate a different reality while still triggered by the same ghosts. And so, the universe, with a wisdom that often carries a sting, delivers precisely what sets you ablaze. Because what provokes you ultimately defines you. Rejection throws into stark relief the unhealed wounds of abandonment, the festering fear that still festers within. Violation of boundaries exposes the controlling impulse, the insatiable need to orchestrate and manipulate. Absence reveals the futile search for external validation, the desperate attempt to find solace and completeness in the fleeting affections of others. It's as if life holds up a mirror, unflinchingly reflecting the patterns of your reactivity. The universe is indifferent to your perceived deserts. The pertinent question is not whether you deserve it, but whether you are still reacting from a place of wounded ego, clinging desperately to control, compulsively repeating old patterns, frantically attempting to fix what is inherently unfixable. Or can you now maintain your composure, your integrity, your very being, even amidst the swirling chaos? This is one of the most profound, most elusive trials. For it is not about the external events that befall you, but about the response you choose to offer in the face of adversity. When you cease behaving as your former self, the one prone to panic, the one begging for approval, the one compulsively sabotaging every nascent joy, something shifts within. A silent current, the invisible force that perpetuated the endless loops of self-destruction, shatters. And that shattering, though imperceptible to the outside world, is a liberation of unprecedented magnitude. You may not command the events that unfold, but you can choose who you are when they do. And it is in this conscious choice that your reality begins its slow, inexorable transformation. Not because the world outside has magically rearranged itself, but because you have ceased reacting as someone trapped in the echoes of the past. And this shift, even without immediate rewards, is a landmark achievement, a testament to your unwavering will. It signifies that change has transcended the realm of abstract aspiration and taken root as an immutable internal state. And it is then and only then that something grander stirs. You begin to respond with a different cadence, a different energy. You feel an undeniable tremor within, a tectonic shift in the bedrock of your soul. But suddenly, a sharp, nameless pain lances through you, emanating from the very core of your being. And doubt, that insidious serpent, slithers in. If I am truly evolving, why does it lacerate me so deeply? The answer, while deceptively simple, is profoundly transformative, because this, too, is part of the grand orchestration. The universe isn't punishing you for your growth. It's testing the very integrity of that growth, probing to see if the change you invoked is firmly rooted within, or merely clinging to the fading vestiges of the old. Pain isn't a cosmic error. It's a thermometer, rising to signal the last vestiges of resistance, the final structures you stubbornly refuse to dismantle. It's as if existence itself is whispering, "You crave the new?" Then you must relinquish the tattered shields of the past. You can't cling to the old ways of protecting yourself. What is crumbling now is not the true you, but what you have already outgrown, what you lack the courage to release completely. Confusion, terror, emotional collapse, these aren't indicators of failure, but rather the symptoms of a dissolving identity. The old self, forever on high alert, compulsively seeking control, relentlessly pursuing external validation, desperately avoiding the sting of truth. Carl Jung, in his infinite wisdom, proclaimed, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." And at this crucial juncture, acceptance is everything. Accepting the pain, the fear, the disorientation, knowing that these too are agents of purification. The ego, of course, will rage, screaming about the loss of control, urging you to retreat to the familiar confines of its comfort zone. It doesn't grasp that this is a test of maturity, not merely of survival. But what is unfolding is not punishment, but preparation. You are being refined, not rejected, emptied, not abandoned, because the new reality you so fervently desired demands space. And that space cannot be claimed while the old structures, the repressed emotions, the unconscious patterns still reign supreme. This pain you are enduring is the final examination, the last hurdle before the breakthrough. It demands, will you succumb to the siren song of the familiar, or will you continue to trust even without guarantees, even when the path ahead is veiled in shadow? And each time you choose to persevere, even through tears, even without understanding, you broadcast to the universe that you are ready for something greater. Not because you vanquished the pain, but because you chose to walk directly through it. As you pull away from the gravitational pull of your old life, the universe dials up the intensity of the test. Your former self, sensing its impending obsolescence, begins to thrash, to scream its protests. The universe then watches, with impartial curiosity, how you choose to respond, because it will scream. That ancient part of you, the one that thrived on fear, guilt, and control, will not relinquish its power quietly. It will fight dirty, wielding its favorite weapons. You're not good enough. This fleeting moment of hope won't last. Retreat to the safety of the familiar. And the universe permits this final onslaught, not out of malice, but out of profound wisdom. This is one of the most critical junctures, the point where countless souls falter and retreat, but also where the seeds of the new begin to take root, to solidify into unshakable form. Carl Jung eloquently explained that the ego is akin to a protective shell. It served its purpose for a time, but it is not the totality of your being. The true you resides within, patiently awaiting the ego's surrender. But the ego rarely exits gracefully. It departs with a cacophony of resistance. And it is precisely there, in that tempestuous battleground, that authentic transformation begins. As the ego's influence wanes, the shadow emerges. The disowned aspects of yourself, the facets you have suppressed, rejected, pretended did not exist. And in that moment of reckoning, the universe poses the ultimate question. Are you prepared to cease your endless flight from yourself? This isn't an abstract exercise. It's a visceral experience, lived out in the gritty reality of everyday existence. It surfaces in the temptations that beckon you to turn back, in the carefully orchestrated triggers that test whether you will succumb to the familiar cycles of self-sabotage, in the soul-searching conversations that force you to confront your deepest fears, in the solitary choices that demand unwavering integrity, in the decisions that only you can make. And it is here, in this crucible of experience, that you are granted the authentic opportunity to declare, with every fiber of your being, I have changed. You recognize the self-defeating thought, but you refuse to nurture it. You feel the searing sting of emotional pain, but you don't flee. You sense the insidious urge to retreat, but you breathe deeply and forge onward. You become someone who no longer requires the fragile scaffolding of the comfort zone to feel whole. That is the signal the universe has been patiently awaiting, because you don't transform your reality merely by waiting for the arrival of something new. You transform your reality by living as someone who is already prepared for that new reality, even when the external world remains stubbornly unchanged. That silent, courageous, unwavering inner response is the message the universe understands with crystal clarity. It is the irrefutable proof that you are ready to advance, that you have transcended the need for external validation. The universe takes note, and it shifts the nature of the test accordingly. No longer does it seek to measure your capacity to endure the pain of the old. Now it seeks to gauge your ability to hold the energy of the new, to sustain the frequency of the reality you desire. Because it is not sufficient to merely yearn for a different existence. You must cultivate the emotional infrastructure necessary to inhabit it. Envision a glass filled with murky water. No matter how fervently you desire pure, crystalline water, if the glass remains full of sediment, there is no space for anything new. And furthermore, if you lack the discipline to maintain the cleanliness of the glass afterwards, the pristine water will inevitably become contaminated once more. That is what the universe is scrutinizing with unwavering intensity. It needs to know, can you maintain your inner peace even when chaos reigns supreme? Do you treat yourself with unwavering respect even when the world withholds its approval? Do you remain steadfastly aligned with your truth even when external validation is absent? These questions, though invisible to the casual observer, are profoundly consequential, and your life will begin to mirror the answers you embody. Carl Jung taught that authentic transformation cannot be orchestrated by the conscious mind alone. It demands the participation of the unconscious, the body, and the very soul. And the universe subjects you to rigorous testing on all of those levels. It is indifferent to your intellectual pronouncements. It seeks evidence of lived transformation. This is why, even after Herculean efforts of inner work, progress in the external world may seem agonizingly slow. Because the test is no longer about sheer endurance, but about unwavering stability. Can you maintain your elevated frequency even when the world refuses to applaud your efforts? Can you remain true to yourself even when the landscape around you remains stubbornly unchanged? This is not punishment, but construction. The universe is calibrating your vibration with meticulous precision. It is preparing the field, the energetic landscape that will receive the seeds of your desires. And it will only release what you possess the emotional maturity to sustain. Because a new reality doesn't arrive to complete you. It manifests when you have already evolved into someone capable of thriving within it, without sacrificing your soul on the altar of external validation. Therefore, if you are navigating a period of intense difficulty, it does not signify that your dreams are receding into the distance. It signifies that the universe is still meticulously preparing the ground, tending the soil of your being. And that ground is you. Continue to show up, even without guarantees, even without tangible evidence that anything is shifting in the external world. And it is precisely here, in this space of unwavering dedication, that one of the most subtle, yet most formidable tests emerges. The void. You scan the horizon, and nothing appears to have changed. The new reality you so desperately craved has failed to materialize. No doors have opened, no affirmations have arrived, and a corrosive sense of injustice begins to creep in. But the universe knows exactly what it is doing. It conceals the reward, not as an act of cruelty, but to discern whether you have already cultivated that reward within yourself. Because if the external manifestation remains your sole source of motivation, then you are still shackled by a sense of lack. And that is why it withholds. Carl Jung illuminated that the encounter with the self transpires when the ego collapses. And the ego, accustomed to the fleeting validation of applause, tangible results, and ironclad guarantees, will fiercely resist this moment of profound silence. It will urge you to abandon the quest, to fabricate excuses, to retreat to the safety of the familiar. But the universe is observing something far more profound. Can you embody the person you aspire to be, even without the fleeting validation of external recognition? This is the test of solidity, of integrity, of unwavering presence. Can you maintain your energetic alignment when no one is bearing witness? Do you act with unwavering authenticity, even when there is no audience to applaud your performance? Can you remain steadfastly committed to your deepest beliefs, even when immediate feedback is absent? Because that is the bedrock upon which your new reality will be built. The external world only begins to mirror your desires when your inner world is purged of its impurities, when it is steady, whole, not flawless, but undeniably real. And that is why, at this critical stage, it may appear as though nothing is transpiring, when, in truth, everything is being meticulously rearranged behind the scenes, orchestrated by unseen forces. The universe is bestowing upon you a precious gift, not absence, but maturation. It is in this crucible of silence that you begin to understand that the greatest treasure wasn't what you sought, but the being you were sculpted into during the arduous wait. You discover unshakable consistency without external validation, clarity without the crutch of certainty, profound peace without the reassurance of definitive answers. And this is no trivial achievement, for it is precisely this quiet, grounded iteration of yourself that the universe recognizes as ready. Not the one who demands, begs, or pleads, but the one who already lives as though they require no external proof of their worth. And as you embody that state of being, reality itself subtly rearranges itself to align with your inner landscape. The waiting persists, and with it, a resurgence of restlessness. You feel as though you have assimilated the lessons, fostered the growth, and diligently performed the necessary work. But time continues its relentless march, and the external world remains stubbornly unchanged. And it is then that the universe unveils one of its most subtle, yet profoundly transformative tests. It seeks to discern whether you will succumb to the siren song of panic or return to the sanctuary of your own being. Because waiting is not a barren void. It is a fertile field, brimming with creative potential. Countless souls falter at this juncture, convinced that nothing is transpiring, but they are tragically mistaken. What is unfolding now is beyond the realm of visibility. It is internal. It is refinement. Carl Jung wisely stated, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And this darkness, this unsettling space of waiting, is precisely where that illumination takes root. It is where you cease the frantic chase and begin to walk in communion with yourself, fully present in each moment. Initially, you may still harbor the hope that some external force will intervene. A message, a sign, a seismic shift in circumstance. But gradually, you awaken to the profound truth that the essence of the journey lies not in when things manifest, but in who you are becoming during the process. As you navigate the labyrinth of waiting, the universe observes this pivotal shift, the transition from anxious control to unwavering trust, from demanding immediate results to surrendering to the exquisite unfolding of the process, from fixated expectation to boundless presence. And this presence is a force of nature. It is in this sacred space that you begin to behave as though you already possess what you seek, even before its tangible manifestation. You treat your energy as a sacred resource, guarding it with fierce protectiveness. You speak with heightened intention, imbuing your words with purpose and power. You move with deliberate slowness, savoring the exquisite details of each passing moment. You make choices with unwavering awareness, attuned to the subtle whispers of your intuition. You are no longer reacting to the perceived absence, but responding to the immutable truth that resides within your own being. This is the essence of spiritual maturity. This is the alchemy of true manifestation. The waiting becomes the sacred crucible where the new begins to breathe, where the reality you invoked begins to gestate within you, long before it manifests in the external world. And that is when the universe understands, with unwavering certainty. Now there is space, there is consistency, there is unshakable readiness, because you are no longer clinging to the illusion that something external will swoop in to rescue you from your perceived incompleteness. You are anchored in the present, knowing with unwavering conviction that the transformation you sought was the journey of rediscovering yourself. And having achieved that profound reunification, time ceases to be an insurmountable obstacle. It becomes an integral element of your strength, a partner in your unfolding destiny. You persevere with diminished anxiety, with heightened levels of serenity. And as imperceptible as it may seem, this subtle shift is making all the difference in the world. This is the turning point, the moment when the universe begins to respond, not with dramatic fanfare, but with subtle whispers, synchronicities, unexpected encounters, fleeting moments of lightness amidst the swirling chaos. You may not yet perceive dramatic changes in the external world, but something deep within you already knows, with unshakable certainty, I am not the same being who embarked upon this journey. And that is one of the most irrefutable signs that the universe is poised to clear a path for you. Carl Jung taught that everything we fail to confront in the unconscious returns as fate, shaping our lives in insidious and often destructive ways. And you are undergoing this profound metamorphosis precisely because you made the conscious decision to cease your flight from the uncomfortable truths within. You felt the sting of pain, moved through it with unwavering courage, and chose to remain present even when every fiber of your being screamed for escape. You learned to see yourself with unwavering compassion, even on your darkest days. You mastered the art of self-soothing, no longer requiring an audience to validate your suffering. You learned to persevere, even when the path ahead was shrouded in shadow, even when no one affirmed that you were on the right course. And the universe witnessed all of this. It observed every quiet choice, every whispered affirmation, every act of self-compassion. It saw every time you rose from the ashes, even when depleted of all apparent strength. It witnessed every moment you resolutely turned away from the patterns that had once held you captive. It saw every tear that cascaded down your face as you chose to forge onward, even without a single tangible sign of progress. These are the responses that life respects above all others. Because when you begin to transform in silence, you emit a new frequency, clearer, steadier, more whole. And that frequency begins to shape the very fabric of your coming reality. You may not have yet received the manifestations you explicitly requested, but you have transcended the need to beg for them. You have ceased the frantic chase. You have dismantled the self-sabotaging patterns that undermined your efforts at every turn. That shift alone is a force of unparalleled power, and it matters not if the world remains oblivious. The universe has taken note, and its response doesn't materialize simply when you are deemed ready. It arrives when you are already living as though you are worthy, as though you already possess the treasures you seek. Because the new reality you are so patiently awaiting doesn't arrive to transform you. It manifests as a direct reflection of the being you have already become. And now, even in the absence of grandiose signs, existence begins to conspire on your behalf in subtle but unmistakable ways. Not because it has magically transformed itself, but because you underwent the transformative process first. At this pivotal juncture, a profound realization dawns. Authentic transformation is not merely an intellectual exercise. It is not about comprehending everything with your conscious mind. It transpires when your body, your emotions, and your very actions begin to move to a different rhythm, to resonate with a different frequency. Even when your mind continues to grapple with fear, manifestation is not about perpetuating an artificial facade of positivity. It is not about reciting affirmations in the mirror, vainly hoping that the external world will magically realign itself with your desires. That is merely the starting point. The true leap of faith, the quantum shift in consciousness, occurs when you begin to live as the person you aspire to be. Carl Jung, in his timeless wisdom, taught, "You don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And that darkness within you, it has already been touched, felt, embraced. You are no longer seeking to evade the sting of pain. You are employing it as a compass, guiding you towards your truest self. And that fundamentally alters your vibrational state, which in turn shapes the realities you attract. Because the universe does not respond to your fleeting thoughts. It responds to what you consistently sustain. to the energy you radiate when no one is watching, to your most intimate frequency, forged in the crucible of how you choose to navigate the world. Manifestation is an existential undertaking. It unfolds when you begin to inhabit the iteration of yourself that you invoked, even before it manifests in physical form. You act with unwavering integrity, long before external recognition is bestowed. You offer the boundless love you yearn to experience without demanding reciprocation. You honor your boundaries with fierce conviction, even without guarantees that others will respect them. You live as someone who already knows their inherent worth, rather than begging for validation, scrambling for crumbs of affection. And that does not go unnoticed by the universe, for it is fluent in the language of coherence. It recognizes when your behavior, your energy, and your core truths are in perfect alignment. And when that alignment is achieved, what once felt impossibly distant begins to draw irresistibly near, not as a sudden miracle, but as the inevitable consequence of your unwavering commitment to authenticity. You manifest what you are, not merely what you want. And when your vibrational state becomes harmoniously compatible with the reality you have invoked, it manifests, for there is no longer any barrier, any impediment, separating you from it. Only seamless connection. This is the stage of the journey where countless souls falter, convinced that their efforts have been in vain. But the truth is, it is working. Existence is responding with subtle but undeniable grace. And it responds most powerfully, not when you are simply asking, but when you are wholeheartedly embodying. You cast your gaze back and realize that nothing you have weathered has been devoid of purpose. Not the agonizing silences, not the frustrating delays, not the seemingly abrupt endings. You were not forgotten. You were not rejected. You were not abandoned. You were being summoned, and that sacred call did not arrive cloaked in honeyed words and comforting reassurances. It manifested in the form of searing pain, of protracted waiting, of agonizing trials that brought you to the very precipice of collapse. But these trials were orchestrated for a transcendent reason, to awaken a version of you that could only be forged under the relentless hammer of adversity. Carl Jung declared with stark honesty, "A life not lived is a disease from which one can die." And the universe understands this fundamental truth with unwavering clarity. It does not desire for you to merely survive, to eke out a meager existence in a small, safe, predictable corner of the world. It yearns for you to live fully, to embrace the totality of your being, to unleash the full spectrum of your potential. And to inhabit that expansive, luminous existence requires profound maturity. That is why existence deliberately pulled the rug from beneath your feet, so that you might unearth a reservoir of strength that would have remained dormant had you remained on solid ground. It deliberately withheld the easy answers so that you would cease your relentless search for external validation and begin to listen to the whispers of your own soul. It deliberately removed certain individuals from your life, not as punishment, but so that you might learn, once and for all, to never abandon yourself again. These trials were never intended to diminish you. They were orchestrated to align you with the purest expression of yourself, with the dreams you declare, with the very frequencies you are now capable of sustaining. You did not navigate this treacherous terrain because you were inherently weak. You persevered because you were ready, even though you were utterly unaware of your own resilience. You kept moving forward, even in the face of paralyzing fear. Something deep within you whispered with unwavering conviction, "I will keep going." And that choice, that imperfect, trembling, tear-soaked commitment to forward motion, was seen by life itself. It was witnessed by the radiant being you are destined to become. The universe does not seek to bestow upon you what your ego craves. It seeks to bestow upon you what your soul is prepared to inhabit. And sometimes that sacred orchestration requires delay. It necessitates moments of profound silence. It demands the relinquishing of control. You are growing, moment by moment, with every quiet choice, with every day you refuse to relinquish your sense of self, with every instance you turn inward and persevere, even when certainty remains elusive. That is the very essence of evolution. That is what clears the path for all that is destined to unfold. So, If you are still grappling with pain today, it does not signify that you have failed. It signifies that the transformation is still underway. The process is still unfolding. But now, with one crucial distinction, you are no longer the same being who embarked upon this journey. And that fundamentally alters everything, for life responds in profoundly different ways to the one who has already undergone metamorphosis. Nothing has been in vain. Not the protracted waiting, not the agonizing pain, not the moments when it felt as though the entire cosmos had turned against you. The universe was not endeavoring to destroy you. It was preparing you, refining you, aligning you with your highest potential. You walked through the fire not to be consumed, but to burn away the remnants of what no longer belonged to the radiant being you are destined to become. And now you understand with crystal clarity. Everything that caused you pain was, in truth, guiding you back to yourself. Every crisis yielded a forgotten fragment of your being. Every loss cleared away the vestiges of what no longer served your growth. Every silence presented an opportunity to truly hear the whispers of your own soul. Carl Jung proclaimed with piercing insight, "The thing you need most will be found where you least want to look." And you possessed the unwavering courage to look, to delve into the shadows, to confront your deepest fears. Even when it lacerated your soul, even when it felt as though no one else could comprehend the magnitude of your struggle, you went all the way down. You touched the darkness, you felt the unnerving chill of the void, and you refused to surrender. And that unwavering choice to remain whole while the world around you threatened to disintegrate was the clearest signal that you are ready. Ready not in the sense of achieving some unattainable state of perfection, but in the sense of embodying wholeness, honesty, and alignment with your deepest values. The universe witnessed it all. It saw every quiet decision, every tear swallowed in the face of surrender, every utterance of, "I will keep going," whispered through clenched teeth. You no longer plead for miracles, for you have come to understand that you are the miracle. The new reality no longer feels like a distant promise, shimmering on the horizon. It manifests as the inevitable consequence of the person you have become. And that person no longer feels the compulsive need to prove anything. They are inhabiting their truth, embracing the present moment, and radiating a profound sense of peace. This is the harvest, not just of what you explicitly requested, but of the radiant being you cultivated within yourself during the arduous wait. And should any lingering doubt persist, simply reflect upon all that you have already overcome. Reflect upon the being you were when this journey began, and the luminescent soul you are now. You walked through fire, and you emerged not consumed by the flames, but transformed, radiating a soft, unwavering light. And that light isn't a boastful beacon clamoring for attention. It is a quiet, unwavering glow emanating from a soul who knows, with unwavering certainty, that nothing has been in vain. And so now what is coming is not punishment, but response. It is reflection. It is the bountiful harvest of your unwavering dedication. And if you have made it this far, I invite you to offer a testament to your journey. In the comments below, write, "I choose to listen to the signs, not run from them." That is more than a mere phrase. It is a sacred covenant with yourself, with your deepest truth, with everything that is destined to emerge from this moment onward. And should this message resonate deeply within your soul, consider offering support to this channel by clicking the thanks button below. Your financial contribution enables this platform to continue to blossom, to delve into greater depths, to uphold its standards of quality, and to expand its reach to those who are yearning for its message. Every contribution, regardless of size, is received with boundless gratitude. Thank you from the depths of my soul for walking this path alongside me. I will meet you in the next unfolding of this grand, mysterious drama. I am free.